I've elected economics this year. Very illuminating subject. When I finish that, I'm going to take charity and reform. Then, Mr. Trustee, I'll know just how an orphan asylum ought to be run. Don't you think I'd make an admirable voter if I had my rights? I was 21 last week. This is an awfully wasteful country to throw away such an honest, educated, conscientious, intelligent citizen as I would be. Yours always, Judy. 7th December. Dear Daddy Longlegs. Thank you for permission to visit Julia. I take it that silence means consent. Such a social whirl as we've been having. The Founders' Dance came last week. This was the first year that any of us could attend, only upperclassmen being allowed. I invited Jimmy McBride, and Sally invited his roommate at Princeton, who visited them last summer at their camp, an awfully nice man with red hair, and Julia invited a man from New York. Not very exciting, but socially approachable. He is connected with the lawmaker Chichesters. Perhaps that means something to you. It doesn't illuminate me to any extent. However, our guest came Friday afternoon in time for tea in the senior corridor and then dashed down to the hotel for dinner. The hotel was so full that they slept in rows on the billiard tables, they say. Jimmy McBride says that the next time he is bidden to a social event in this college, he is going to bring one of their Adirondack tents and pitch it on the campus. At 7:30 they came back for the president's reception and dance. Our functions commence early. We had the men's cards all made out ahead of time, and after every dance, we'd leave them in groups, under the letter that stood for their names, so that they could be readily found by their next partners. Jimmy McBride, for example, would stand patiently under M until he was claimed. At least, he ought to have stood patiently. But he kept wandering off, and getting mixed with Rs, and S's and all sorts of letters. I found him a very difficult guest. He was sulky because he had only 3 dances with me. He said he was bashful about dancing with girls he didn't know. The next morning we had a Glee Club concert. And who do you think wrote the funny new song composed for the occasion? It's the truth. She did. Oh, I tell you, Daddy, your little foundling is getting to be quite a prominent person. Anyway, our gay 2 days were great fun, and I think the men enjoyed it. Some of them were awfully perturbed at first at the prospect of facing 1,000 girls, but they got acclimated very quickly. Our 2 Princeton men had a beautiful time. At least they politely said they had, and they've invited us to their dance next spring. We've accepted, so please don't object, Daddy dear. Julia and Sally and I all had new dresses. Do you want to hear about them? Julia's was cream satin and gold embroidery, and she wore purple orchids. It was a dream and came from Paris and cost $1 million. Sally's was pale blue trimmed with Persian embroidery and went beautifully with red hair. It didn't cost quite $1 million, but was just as effective as Julia's. Mine was pale pink crepe de chine trimmed with ecru lace and rose satin. And I carried crimson roses which JMCB sent, Sally having told him what color to get. And we all had satin slippers and silk stockings and chiffon scarves to match. You must be deeply impressed by these millinery details. One can't help thinking, Daddy, what a colorless life a man is forced to lead, when one reflects that chiffon and Venetian point and hand embroidery and Irish crochet are to him mere empty words. Whereas a woman, whether she is interested in babies or microbes or husbands or poetry or servants or parallelograms or gardens or Plato or bridge, is fundamentally and always interested in clothes. It's the one touch of nature that makes the whole world kin. That isn't original. I got it out of one of Shakespeare's plays.